After I agreed to give blood to save my boyfriend's dream girl to cure my husband's terminal illness, he regretted it. Chapter 1. When my wealthy boyfriend wanted to drain my blood to save his dream girl's life, everyone thought I would break up with him. Instead, I voluntarily inserted the needle into my vein and agreed to the full blood transfusion surgery. For a moment, my boyfriend thought I truly loved him to death. He made an unprecedented promise that if I cooperated with the surgery obediently, he would give me a title and marry me. But what he didn't know was that I didn't love him at all, nor did I want to marry him. I was only doing this to complete the system's task. As long as I fulfilled 1,000 of his requests, the system would help me return to the real world and cure my husband's terminal illness. When I voluntarily inserted the needle into my vein, an eerie silence fell over the private room. Those who had been waiting to see me humiliated now looked at me with shock and confusion in their eyes. But after just a brief moment of silence, a burst of laughter erupted in the room. "Sophia, you're such a loyal dog. 7 years and you're still so obedient to our Lucas. Lucas, how do you train her? Teach me too, I want to keep one for fun. Nonsense, she's just a poor girl, what else does she have besides her looks? If she does not lower herself and cling to him, how else could she get close to a rich young master like Lucas?" Suddenly, countless sharp and sarcastic words stabbed at me like blades without mercy. But I endured it all with a blank expression. After all, I had been in this world for exactly 7 years, and had long since grown accustomed to these rumors and gossip. These people were all Lucas's fair-weather friends. To please Lucas, they never missed an opportunity to humiliate me over the past 7 years, highlighting their pathetic sense of existence. But I didn't care. My purpose for coming to this world had always been only one thing. That was to cure my husband's cancer. Back then, he inhaled a large amount of toxic smoke while rescuing me from a fire. In less than a year, his condition deteriorated from diagnosis to late-stage lung cancer. In my despair, it was the system that appeared and told me. As long as I willingly went to another world and fulfilled 1,000 of Lucas's requests, the system could cure my husband's lung cancer, and I could return to the real world. 7 years had passed, and this was Lucas's last request. Let alone taking my blood, even if he wanted my life, so what? After all, once the task was completed, this body would disappear anyway. Thinking of this, I looked up at Lucas, expecting him to eagerly take me to the hospital as usual. After all, in his eyes, I had been worth less than a strand of his dream girl Zoe's hair for all these years. Previously, when Zoe failed to get a job, he demanded that I give up the interview opportunity I had worked hard to get, insisting I give up my spot for her. When Zoe fell ill with a fever, he ordered me to go out and buy medicine at 3 in the morning during a typhoon. When Zoe got drunk and had a car accident, he didn't hesitate to cross the line and make me take the blame for Zoe. Each time I completed his requests without complaint, but in return I only received his increasingly cold gaze. But this time Lucas's pupils trembled slightly, his eyes filled with hesitation. "Sophia, I'm asking you one last time. Are you serious?" Among the crowd, Zoe noticed this and a flash of displeasure crossed her eyes. But she quickly put on a sympathetic expression, pretending to walk forward and hold my hand, her tone full of guilt. "Sister Sophia, my leukemia has worsened. The doctor said I need a full blood transfusion to survive. Now in the whole city, you're the only one with the matching rare blood type. If you really replace all my blood alone, you might be drained dry and you might even die." Zoe said halfway through, but suddenly raised her head, looking as if she was about to cry. It's bad enough that I am suffering alone, how could I drag you into this?" As I watched her poor performance, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. 7 years and she's still the same. Playing the victim, seeking sympathy, pushing all responsibility onto others. But anyway, my task was about to be completed, so it didn't matter what she did. Thinking of this, I just smiled faintly. "Don't worry, Miss Zoe. I am volunteering. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda, and moreover, I've said it countless times over these 7 years, I'll fulfill whatever Lucas asks. This 600cc is enough for you to get through this period, so please accept it with peace of mind." With that, I handed the blood bag to Lucas with blood on the corner of my mouth. After all, I would soon be able to see my husband again. Just thinking about it made me happy. And curing Zoe's illness meant they could be together properly. It was a win-win situation, no one lost out. But Lucas, who had been so arrogant moments ago, was now stunned for some reason. He stared at me for a long time, as if seeing me for the first time. After a while, he finally took the blood bag, though his voice was suddenly a bit hoarse for some reason. The surgery is tentatively scheduled for next week. Take this money, don't collapse by then, and prevent Zoe from having the surgery. I looked at the check Lucas handed me, somewhat surprised. In 7 years, this was the first time Lucas had offered to compensate me. However, I was about to return to my own world, so this money was completely useless to me. I shook my head, refusing his kindness. I'm simply fulfilling your wish, I don't need money. Being able to help you is enough for me. Hearing this, Lucas looked at me in surprise, his eyes full of confusion. I didn't bother to explain anything, just smiled at him and turned to leave. But perhaps because I had just donated 600 cc of blood, I felt a bit dizzy. After walking a few steps, my high-heeled boots slipped on the smooth ice, and my already thin-down jacket was torn by pebbles, letting the cold wind constantly blow in. Seeing my sprained ankle, a burst of laughter immediately erupted around me. It was just 600 cc, look how weak she is, she can't even walk. It's hilarious. All right, stop pretending to be fragile in front of our Lucas. You're just a poor girl who throws herself at him. Do you really think you can climb the social ladder with such childish tricks? That's right, she's just an outsider. Why should Lucas care about her? Lucas, let's go, I've called quite a few beauties for the next party, they're all waiting to meet you. Among the crowd, Zoe also secretly gave me a challenging smile, then hooked her arm through Lucas's and sat in his passenger seat. I didn't say anything, just silently gritted my teeth and slowly stood up, leaning against the wall. Such humiliation had become commonplace for me over the past 7 years. Just as I thought Lucas would leave with Zoe without looking back as he had done before, he suddenly stopped and walked over to me. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke in a low voice. Never mind, get in the car. I'll have the driver take you back. Chapter 2. When I heard Lucas tell me to get in the car, I was stunned. In 7 years, this was the first time. Before, he was always very harsh with me, looking as if he despised me to the bone. Not only did he never let me touch his car, but he also said that a woman of my class getting into his car would be an embarrassment to him. I remember once when I accidentally steadied myself by touching his car door, he immediately pushed me down, and the next day he even sold the new car he had bought less than 3 months ago. But now he was actively telling me to get in the car. For a moment I really couldn't react. The people around us were also stunned, including Zoe. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lucas, their gazes full of surprise. It wasn't until this moment that Lucas seemed to belatedly realize his own slip. A flash of panic, unlike his usual self, crossing his eyes, but he quickly returned to his usual indifferent demeanor. She's the only one in the city with the rare blood type. I just thought that if it gets dark and the roads are slippery, it would be a waste of all that rare blood if she froze to death outside. 111. For Zoe's safety, I have to ensure this blood bag doesn't have any accidents. This reason, I had already guessed in my heart earlier. Hearing him say this, I didn't feel much turmoil in my heart. After all, Lucas being madly in love with Zoe was something everyone knew. Once when Zoe made a mistake at work and was just scolded by her supervisor, Lucas directly brought down that company. He even used his family connections to blacklist that supervisor, completely ruining his career. Now, for Zoe's safety, he reluctantly let me get in the car once, which was normal. However, I get carsick anyway, so I still declined his kindness. No need, I'll just walk back. Lucas' face immediately turned cold. Suit yourself. With that, he got in the car and left without looking back. Immediately, a burst of mocking laughter erupted around me. Follow new episodes on the crushnovel.com. Lucas just took pity on you for a moment, and you're getting cocky. Did you really think anyone could get in Lucas' car? With such poor judgment, no wonder Lucas hasn't even bothered to look at you properly in 7 years. Zoe, even gave me a smug smile from the car. But I just wrapped my coat tighter and turned to walk towards my home in this world. The night sky in this world was different from my hometown's. Looking at the unfamiliar starry sky, I couldn't help but think of my husband. Although the system had temporarily saved his life. But after not seeing each other for 7 years, he must be very worried about me now. But fortunately, all this was about to end. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smile slightly. But just then, someone suddenly pushed me hard from behind. Caught off guard, I fell directly into the cold lake water. I had just donated 600 c of blood and was already weak. Now I felt like my whole body was turning into an ice cube, unable to move. Struggling in the freezing cold water, I saw Zoe standing on the shore, looking at me with a cold smile. Well, if it isn't our little wife Sophia, still alive are you? She walked to my hospital bed, looking down at me with contempt in her voice. TM, surprised you actually signed the surgery consent form. I thought you'd refuse to save my life for the sake of your pathetic self-respect. Looks like you do have some self-awareness after all, you know, that the only use for your worthless life is to save mine. See, how could they possibly let someone like you, with such an unclear background, marry into their wealthy family? With that, Zoe took a bank card out of her pocket and threw it onto my hospital bed. Take this money after the surgery and get as far away as possible. If you ever show up in front of Lucas and me again, you'll face the consequences. But I looked at the bank card and just shook my head. I was about to leave this world anyway. What use did I have for money? I don't need your money. Zoe's face immediately darkened. You're asking for trouble. Since you care so much about your image in Lucas' eyes, I'll make sure you give up completely. The next moment, she grabbed the bowl of hot medicine Lucas had left on the table and suddenly splashed it on her own face. Then she covered her face and started screaming loudly, pretending to be in pain. Ah, it's so hot. She moaned in pain while secretly glancing at me from the corner of her eye, her lips curling into a sinister cold smile, but her voice still pretending to be sincere. Miss Sophia, I am sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't realize the medicine was so hot, but if doing this makes you feel better, I won't tell Lucas you splashed me. I saw through Zoe's paw acting at a glance. It was the same old trick. She had used this method to frame me more than once or twice. Every time, Lucas would punish me without considering the consequences. Sure enough, the next moment Lucas pushed open the door and walked in. He saw this scene, and his face immediately turned ugly. He then quickly walked up to me and raised his hand, about to hit me. But the next moment, his hand suddenly stopped in mid-air, followed by a sigh. Sophia, don't let this happen again. Chapter 3. Seeing that Lucas didn't actually hit me, not only was I surprised, but Zoe also looked at Lucas as if she had seen a ghost, her face full of astonishment. Lucas, she splashed me, why aren't you doing anything about it? Don't tell me. You've actually fallen for this bootlicker. Lucas sighed helplessly, then held Zoe's hand tightly. Zoe, you can act up however you want usually, it doesn't matter. But Sophia's safety is very important right now. Without her, your life might not be saved. Let's focus on the big picture, okay? Let's focus on the big picture, okay? Hearing this, I was suddenly shocked. So, for these 7 years, Lucas had always known that Zoe was doing it on purpose. He just loved her too much, so he knew but didn't say anything. For a moment, Zoe knew she was in the wrong, her face alternating between shades of green and white. Sophia, don't get cocky. Don't forget what I said earlier, Lucas will absolutely never marry you. She glared at me fiercely before storming out, slamming the door behind her. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Lucas took the initiative to offer to take me back. I nodded. After all, my body was still quite weak. On the way, we passed by a shopping mall. In the window display, a pair of platinum rings shimmered under the lights. The style was exactly the same as the one my husband gave me when he proposed. I couldn't help but stop, my gaze fixed on that ring. Do you like it? Lucas followed my gaze, his tone indifferent. Let me make this clear in advance. Although I agreed to marry you, it's only for Zoe's surgery. Don't even think about wedding rings and such. I only have Zoe in my heart. You're just a wife in name, "Don't fantasize about anything." But I just smiled faintly. "It's okay, I don't mind. As long as I can help you fulfill your wish, I am satisfied." Hearing this, the smile on Lucas' face suddenly froze. For the rest of the journey, he didn't say another word. Until a car at the intersection couldn't brake in time and suddenly lost control, rushing towards us. Lucas was still looking down, seemingly lost in thought, completely unaware of the approaching danger. My heart suddenly tightened. If he died, what about my task? What about my husband's illness? Almost instinctively, I suddenly pushed Lucas away. "Sophia, are you crazy?" Lucas stumbled from my push, frowning as he looked at me. But the next second he saw me being hit by the car and lying on the ground covered in blood. His pupils suddenly contracted, his face filled with diabolical gleam. His pupils suddenly contracted, his face filled with disbelief. "Sophia," he stumbled towards me, his voice trembling. Why did you still save me?" I was in so much pain I could barely speak, but I still managed to force out a smile. "I just didn't want to see you die." Hearing this, the usually cold and arrogant Lucas's eyes reddened. "Fool, you really are a fool. How can there be someone like you in this world?" I looked at him but just managed a weak smile. He had grown up in a world of intrigue and deception among the wealthy elite. How could he have ever seen pure kindness? In the end, he was also a pitiful person. Just as Lucas was about to call an ambulance, his phone suddenly rang. It was Lucas' secretary. "Young Master Lucas, it's terrible. Miss Zoe's condition has suddenly worsened, she might not make it. We need to operate immediately. Please bring Sophia over for the blood transfusion right away." Lucas was stunned, looking at me, then at his phone. "But Sophia is injured too, she needs treatment now." On the other end of the phone, the secretary was shocked. "Young Master Lucas, what are you saying? Who is Sophia compared to Miss Zoe's life?" I looked at Lucas, somewhat surprised. In 7 years, this was the first time he had hesitated between me and Zoe. Probably because I had just saved him, and he felt guilty. But I didn't care. I was happy to have the surgery early and complete the task. I struggled to get up from the ground, a wave of intense pain spreading through my body. "Let's go perform the surgery for Zoe now." Lucas' eyes immediately widened. But you're injured now. If you have surgery recklessly, you could die." I waved my hand dismissively. "It doesn't matter. Saving someone is the most important thing, isn't it?" He probably never imagined that in this situation, I would still be thinking about saving Zoe. He was silent for a moment, and finally said nothing, turning to walk towards the car. On the way, neither of us spoke. It wasn't until just before entering the operating room that Lucas spoke again. "Sophia, why are you doing this?" But I just smiled. "Of course it's because you're very important to me." Lucas was immediately stunned, a barely noticeable flicker of emotion passing through his eyes. I turned and walked into the operating room. Just before the door closed, Lucas suddenly said softly, "You're not allowed to die." His voice was very quiet. Although I heard it, I didn't respond. After all, once this surgery was completed, I would leave this world. Such a promise meant nothing to me. In the operating room, under the cold light, I lay on the operating table, watching my blood slowly flow into Zoe's body. Zoe's face gradually regained its rosy color, and her breathing became steady. The doctors all breathed a sigh of relief. I also breathed a sigh of relief, forcing out a weak smile. It's over. These 7 years of strategy were finally over. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the task. Your husband's cancer has been successfully cured, and you will return to the real world soon. Meanwhile, upon learning that the surgery went smoothly, Lucas took a deep breath and walked into my hospital room with an exquisite ring box, clearing his throat. "You worked hard today, I don't like owing people favors." "You've been eyeing that ring, right? I saw it wasn't expensive, so I bought it on a whim." "Try it on." But there was no response from me on the hospital bed. Lucas called out in confusion. "Sophia, did you hear what I said?" Chapter 4. In an instant, the sharp beeping sound broke the silence of the hospital room, piercing Lucas' eardrums like a sharp knife. By the time he snapped back to reality, doctors and nurses had already rushed in. hurriedly lifting me off the hospital bed and pushing me towards the operating room. Lucas stood there in a daze, staring at the empty bed, his mind blank. Meanwhile, my soul floated in mid-air, watching all this unfold, feeling equally confused. Wasn't the task supposed to be completed? Why hadn't I returned yet? My husband was waiting for me. Ding! Due to an abnormal death, the host needs to stay for 3 days before returning to the real world. The system's voice finally sounded again. Abnormal death, then what about my husband's cancer? Host, please rest assured. When you return after 3 days, your husband's cancer will be cured. Hearing this, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. It doesn't matter what happens to me. I've waited 7 years, a few more days won't make a difference. I was so busy completing the task with Lucas that I never really got to see this world properly. Now's a good chance to relax a bit. Meanwhile, Lucas finally came to his senses after a long while and stumbled towards the operating room. The light in the operating room was on, and the red words "surgery in progress" were particularly glaring. Lucas paced back and forth outside the door, constantly biting his fingers. I knew this was his habit when he was anxious and worried. Before, I had only seen him do this when he was worried about Zoe. I didn't expect him to worry about me like this. It seems he's not completely heartless after all. After a while, Lucas' secretary suddenly rushed over and whispered in his ear, "Young Master Lucas, Miss Zoe has woken up and is making a fuss about seeing you. Follow new episodes on the Crushnovel.com." Lucas hesitated for a moment, looking back at the operating room and muttering to himself, "Sophia, you've been so tough for 7 years, you're not allowed to die this time." In the ward, as soon as Zoe saw Lucas, she excitedly hugged him. "Lucas, thank you, I am finally okay. From now on, let me take care of you and spend our days together." She smiled like a child. But Lucas wasn't very happy. His eyes were still a bit vacant, and he didn't even seem to hear Zoe calling him. He just stood there in a daze, looking very distracted. Floating in the air, I watched Lucas' absent-minded appearance and felt puzzled. Before, if Zoe had even a slight headache, he would want to stay by her bedside 24 hours a day. What's wrong with him today? He seems so lost. Zoe also noticed Lucas' unusual behavior. She gripped Lucas' hand tightly, her tone concerned. "Lucas, what's wrong? You look so upset and you seem so distracted." Lucas finally came back to his senses, his eyes flickering as he stammered, "Sophia, she just had a cardiac arrest, they're still trying to save her." His voice got smaller and smaller towards the end, almost inaudible. Seeing this, I had no reaction. It didn't matter how I died anyway. As long as the task was completed and my husband's cancer could be cured, that was enough. A flash of impatience crossed Zoe's eyes, but she quickly covered it up. She pretended to be worried and comforted Lucas. "It's okay, Miss Sophia is tough, she'll be fine. Today was just a blood donation after all." As she spoke, she gently patted Lucas' shoulder, looking gentle and caring. I watched Zoe's hypocritical face and sneered inwardly. "Keep pretending, go on. If you hadn't pushed me into the JCY lake, none of this would have happened." At this moment, Zoe's gaze fell on the ring box peeking out of Lucas' pocket. Her eyes lit up and her tone became excited. "Lucas, did you prepare a ring for me?" As she spoke, she reached for the ring box. Lucas instinctively covered his pocket, his eyes evasive. But Zoe thought he was just being shy and smiled even more smugly. "Oh, Lucas, you're so thoughtful. I didn't expect you to prepare this so early. Let me try it on right away." She snatched the ring box and eagerly opened it. An exquisite ring lay quietly inside. Zoe happily took out the ring and was about to put it on her finger. But the next moment, the smile on her face froze. Chapter 5. Because the ring was too small, she couldn't even put it on. Her face immediately fell, her tone displeased. "What's going on? Why can't I wear it?" I watched Zoe's gloomy expression, not surprised at all. She had always been so petty. Otherwise, she wouldn't have pushed me into the icy lake just because Lucas looked at me favorably once. Lucas finally stammered an explanation. This ring was actually bought for Sophia. Didn't I promise her earlier that we'd get married? I thought since she worked so hard today, I'd buy her a ring to cheer her up." But don't worry, you're still the only one in my heart. Sophia and I are just going through the motions, I'm just afraid she'll make a fuss. Zoe, are you angry? He carefully observed Zoe's expression, his tone full of appeasement. Zoe's expression twisted for a moment, then she forced out a smile uglier than crying. How could I be? She laughed dryly a couple of times, her eyes shifting. Floating in the air, I coldly observed her performance. This girl is acting again. Zoe paused for a moment, then pretended to casually change the subject. But Lucas, now that I've recovered, let's continue with our wedding plans. Lucas was obviously stunned. I saw his hands on his knees unconsciously tighten and loosen, then tighten again. But I've already promised Sophia. Zoe scoffed disdainfully. Oh come on, she loves you so much, she'll definitely agree, won't she? She looked confident, as if she had already seen me nodding in agreement. Follow new episodes on the crushnovel.com. I sneered inwardly. Where did she get such confidence? I never intended to marry Lucas in the first place. Lucas, however, became even more conflicted. He lowered his head, constantly fidgeting with his fingers, his eyes wandering. Watching him like this, I felt no ripples in my heart. I had never had any expectations for this marriage from beginning to end. Even without Zoe's interference, I would never have married Lucas. Because my heart already had an irreplaceable husband, and marriage would only tarnish his existence in my heart. Seeing Lucas still hesitating, a flash of viciousness crossed Zoe's eyes. You've never considered Sophia's matters for so long before. She paused, staring intently at Lucas. You haven't actually fallen for her, have you? Hearing this, Lucas instinctively retorted. How could that be possible? His tone was a bit hurried, even carrying a hint of panic. With so many wealthy young ladies to choose from, why would I pick a poor girl like her? Hearing this, Zoe's expression finally improved. The next moment, she casually threw the ring into the trash can. That's good. Since this thing can't be used anyway, you can buy me a new, more expensive one later, isn't that better? The ring fell into the trash can with a crisp sound. Watching this scene, I felt no waves in my heart. From beginning to end, I had never fantasized that a rich young master like Lucas would fall in love with me. Lucas stared fixedly at the ring in the trash can, stunned for a long while but finally nodded. I wasn't surprised by his choice. The next moment the doctor came. Lucas immediately became quite excited. Doctor, why are you all here? His voice carried a slight tremor. How's Sophia's rescue going? That girl. Before Lucas could finish, the doctor took off his mask and shook his head. I am sorry, Mr. We've tried everything, but Miss Sophia has lost all vital signs. Please accept our condolences. Chapter 6. Hearing this, Lucas was stunned. What, Sophia is dead? The doctor lowered his head, took off his mask, revealing a tired expression. I'm sorry, Mr. The doctor's voice was very low, carrying a hint of undisguised regret. Miss Sophia passed away too suddenly. Not only did her heart stop, but her brain also died instantly. The doctor paused, as if organizing his words. We did our best. Lucas suddenly raised his head, grabbing the doctor's collar. His eyes were wide open, bloodshot. How could she die? Lucas's voice was sharp and piercing, with a hint of hysteria. Before the surgery, I was clearly instructed to use the most advanced equipment and the best medicine, no matter how much it cost. He shook the doctor violently, as if he wanted to shake him apart. Are you all a bunch of incompetents? Lucas's fingers turned white from the force. You succeeded in such a difficult surgery but failed to save one person. Floating in the air, I watched Lucas's outburst of anger and felt somewhat surprised. In 7 years, this was the first time I had seen him so angry. Usually, even when he was angry, he always maintained a high and mighty, noble demeanor. But now he was raving like an unreasonable shrew. Even for Zoe, he had never lost his composure like this. I couldn't help but feel surprised that I was apparently so important in his eyes. However, perhaps he just felt embarrassed and worried it would affect his reputation. After all, a death had occurred, and it would be difficult to explain to his parents, so that's why he was so angry. The doctors were frightened by Lucas's behavior, all of them silent, not daring to speak. Lucas let go of the doctor and turned to run towards the operating room. Lucas, seeing this, Zoe hurriedly chased after him. But Lucas seemed not to hear, running into the operating room without looking back. Watching Lucas leave, Zoe's face immediately turned ashen, and she kicked the trash can in frustration. Back in the car, Lucas took out his phone and dialed a number. "Attorney Jiang, is the autopsy report out?" His voice was trembling. The next moment, a deep voice came from the other end of the phone. "Yes, it's out." Hearing this, Lucas's heart immediately jumped to his throat. "What's the result?" The person on the other end nodded. "Chen, you guessed right. There was indeed a problem with Miss Sophia's death." The person paused, then continued. "However, she did not die from the surgery or complications, but from poisoning." Hearing the words poisoning, I was completely stunned. "Poisoning? You've got to be kidding. Who would poison me?" I floated in the air, my mind buzzing. The voice on the other end of the phone remained calm. "The cause of Sophia's death was poisoning. We detected an excessive amount of arsenic toxin in her blood. I've already sent the detailed autopsy report to your email. You can take a careful look." Lucas hung up the phone and opened his email with trembling hands. In the email was a lengthy autopsy report of over a dozen pages. The dense professional terms made my eyes blur. But I still tried hard to read on. As I delved deeper into the report's contents, my expression became increasingly grim. I finally understood everything. I also understood why the system said my death was abnormal and might be delayed for a few days. Because I didn't die from the surgery or complications, but was poisoned to death by Zol J from the very beginning, Zoe never intended to let me live. When I was pushed into the icy lake, Zoe had taken the opportunity to put poison in the medicine Lucas gave me. And the reason she deliberately spilled the medicine that day was to completely destroy the evidence. She thought she had done it perfectly. But what she never expected was that Lucas didn't immediately cremate my body, but secretly had an autopsy done. Now the truth was out. Lucas's face was terrifyingly gloomy. His eyes burned with raging fury. He gripped his phone tightly, his knuckles turning white. After a while, Lucas dialed Zoe's number, his tone icy. "Zoe, let's meet." Hearing that Lucas wanted to meet her, Zoe's voice was immediately filled with joy. "Sure, Lucas." On the other end of the phone, Zoe still thought Lucas was going to propose to her. But she could never have imagined that what awaited her was hell. "Meet at the usual place," Lucas said, then hung up the phone. He started the car and drove towards the meeting place. Along the way, his mind was constantly filled with memories of me and him together. My smile, my gentleness, my thoughtfulness, all of this made his heart ache like a knife. And all of this had been destroyed by Zoe. He hated Zoe and wanted to tear her to pieces. In contrast, Zoe had arrived at the meeting place early. She had even specially worn a pure white long dress today, and her hair was carefully styled. Her face was beaming with a happy smile, as if she could already see herself walking down the aisle with Lucas. But she was completely unaware that the shadow of death was already looming over her head. Lucas's car slowly stopped in front of Zoe. She opened the car door and got out, but his face was still terrifyingly gloomy. Seeing Lucas's expression was clearly off, Zoe immediately asked cautiously, "Lucas, what's wrong?" But Lucas just looked straight into Zoe's eyes and got straight to the point. "Zoe, why did you kill Sophia?" Hearing this, Zoe's face instantly turned pale. She tried to maintain her composure and immediately played dumb. "Lucas, what are you talking about? I don't understand." Chapter 7. Lucas sneered and slammed the autopsy report on the table. "Now do you understand?" Zoe's face alternated between shades of green and white. She could no longer pretend. "Lucas, you really did fall for her. She was just a lowly dog trying to get close to you. I couldn't stand it, so I killed her. What's wrong with that?" She sneered, her tone full of disdain. Lucas roared, "That's still no reason for you to kill her." Zoe no longer tried to hide, revealing her ugly face. "If I didn't kill her, how could I marry you? How could I inherit your family's fortune? Since it's been exposed, it doesn't matter. I can pretend nothing happened." After we are married, we'll split the money and each do our own thing. Hearing this, Lucas's heart completely cooled. The woman he once loved deeply was actually so despicable and shameless. Lucas said coldly, "I gave you a chance." But Zoe looked confused. What chance? The next moment, before Zoe could react, she suddenly felt a sharp pain. Then she clutched her chest and fell to the ground in agony. You poisoned me." She struggled to get out a few words. Lucas looked at her coldly, without saying anything. "I want you to suffer 100 times the pain Sophia did." After saying this, Lucas also picked up the wine glass on the table and drank it all in one gulp. "Of course, I'm deeply sinful too. Sophia, if fate allows, let's meet again in the next life." Chapter 8. Sophia, if fate allows, let's meet again in the next life. He smiled bitterly and slowly closed his eyes. Just then I heard the system prompt. "System repair complete. The host can return to the original world at any time." I sighed, never expecting that this 7-year strategy would end with such a twist of fate. Then I reorganized my thoughts and returned to my own world. As for everything in this world, I'll just treat it as a dream. When I returned to the real world, my husband had indeed recovered as expected. After 7 years of separation, I immediately told him everything. The next moment we hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's warmth. From now on, I just want to live a good life and have a simple, happy life with my husband. After all, no amount of money can buy time. Only by cherishing the people in front of us can we avoid falling into regret in life. The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, second-hand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading and keep the drama on the page.